Hello, this video will demonstrate how to load and view an image in DS9. I'm assuming you know what DS9 is by now, and I'm assuming you have a file that you can open. So the main window that you see on my screen now is the open and running DS9 session. And the first thing you need to familiarize yourself with is the main control buttons, and you'll see them right here. Okay, the top row controls what happens on the bottom row. The top row is essentially a category, and then the bottom is the options that you have within the category. Notice when I hit Edit, the bottom row changes, the top row stays the same. So more on that later, but for now you want to go to File and then look for an option called Open, which is not working. Okay, so excuse this part. Now it will work. Normally when you start a DS9 session, it will be working. So you click on Open, and I have already navigated to where my file is that I want to load, but you can navigate to it using the typical navigation that you have in Apple's or Mac's folder or on your Windows machine. So here, for example, I will demonstrate how I got to it. I had already set up a DS9 subdirectory, and here's my file. Open. And now the area that was all blank, which is the main display panel in DS9, has something which is mostly dark. You can see that there is something in there, but it does not really show up well. So that's step 2 of this whole process, is now manipulating the intensity so that you can see it better. A short primer on that. Your image contains values from a minimum value to a maximum value. Those are the actual values stored in your FITS image. Now, when you see something on screen, you have a minimum intensity, which is usually black, and a maximum intensity, which is usually white, and things in between, which is the shades of colors that you see. Now, at the very top is what you might consider saturation, and at the very low end of that intensity is where you run into your sensitivity limit. Okay, the trick between any of these packages, including DS9, is to match the minimum value in your image to the minimum value on the display, and the maximum value in your image to the maximum value of your display, so that the values that are in the image show up nicely on a display. Two separate but very related items. Minimum and maximum in the image, those are the values that are in your file. Minimum and maximum brightness that you can use to display. Now this thing, this is what Photoshop, this is what people's livelihoods are based on. It's a very complicated process, and we're only going to touch it lightly here. So in order to fix this one, in order to manipulate this matching yourself, you need to relocate the scale option on DS9. So here's my scale option, okay? And then there's a whole bunch of new things that just got popped up and available to me. Now, between linear, log, power, square root, squared, and histogram, you have 4 different ways of matching values to brightness intensity. The 2 options on the very right, min-max and z-scale, are different from these other ones over here. Minimum and maximum tells DS9 that match the minimum value in the image to the minimum value on the intensity scale, and the same for maximum. Z-scale says, don't worry about the minimum and the maximum. Find a good range below the maximum, above the minimum, which will show you most of the pixels. And that, the reason people even invented Z-scale was that because they found out that the minimum and the maximum is usually fooled by one very low and incorrect, usually, minimum or maximum pixel. So here I'm going to now press Z-scale, and you will see a dramatic change in how the intensity matching is done. And there it is. So as a first guess as a first item, what you can try is, instead of using minimum and maximum, ask DS9 to use Z-scale to do the display, and then you can actually see your display. Now you can move around it, your item, your image, a little bit easier with DS9. So I'll introduce you to a third button, which is the zoom button. So here I've clicked on zoom, and nothing's really changed other than a few more options have appeared. The plus and the minus here do pretty much what you might think they do. Plus increases the magnification, so here we are, and minus decreases it. Okay. You can also use some automatic fittings. For example, if I just hit in to fit, it'll figure out what the optimal zoom is. Normally this is what you get when you start up an image in DS9. And but anyway, you can also zoom by fixed amounts here. Okay. Up at the top right, you have two different smaller windows. One of them shows you the entire image and then a green smaller box within this image. If you were taking a guess that the green box matches the main display window, you're correct. The one on the right actually is a zoomed in version around your cursor, and I'll demonstrate that now. So here, for example, is a point source, and I go around it and I can see it in more detail. If I want to explore what this knot of emission is, I can go over there and it would show up in the top right magnified portion of the window. And so that's how you would basically navigate within your image. You can also drag this entire green box down, and you can see that it moves the display part of the region with it. Okay, so this is how you can pan now within DS9 to get to different parts of the image. If you're trying to figure out where the edge is, just try and go up here, and here's your edge. You can locate it very easily here in the main window and up here. Again, if you go to any part of the main display window, look at the top right and you'll see a magnified version of that. Okay, so this is how you navigate, view an image, and manipulate the intensities in DS9.